This is just a video of some of the more interesting pieces in my lamp collection. This is a 1991 vintage, I think it's July or August 1991 Osram compact fluorescent lamp. You can see the packaging right there. Hang on, this light's kind of bad, but there's the package. Not every day you find one of these new old stock in packaging. This is one of the two that I have that I got off of eBay a few years back. They're in packaging. The other two aren't because I found them on other fixtures or got them without packaging. This is a late 1940s, 1950s, 1960s compact fluorescent lamp. Light might, you can see it actually has a manual preheat starter because due to size restraints they couldn't fit in a proper starter receptacle. It just takes a pair of F4T5 fluorescent lamps. I just did some generic, likely Chinese-made lamps that I got stupid cheap up at an industrial surplus store. This is a Taiwanese-made 2006 vintage Osram Sylvania lamp. So there's the packaging. Because Osram bought up the lamp division of GTE Corporation, also known as GTE Sylvania. I actually have a couple of lamps over there that I'm going to cover later in the video. So that's where that difference comes in. They bought them up in 1993, so that's where that difference comes in. You can see the difference here because this is a 1994 vintage lamp, but it's Sylvania marked, but it came in an Osram box. So likely they had old stock of these following the buy-up, so they just decided to use it, but the lamps were branded Osram Sylvania. Or Sylvania. This is one of the regularly used pieces. This is actually a anti-trip neck brake light in our dining room that is on a little fixture installed a few years back. This is a 1993 vintage, I think, if that's the Phillips date code. That is September 1993, but it's feet electric. Taiwanese made adapter. And the lamp is a British-made SLI, which they no longer make there because that was in a town called Shipley. That's where this lamp was made. That moved about a few years back over to India, so more outsourcing EA regulations. This is, I've covered this in a previous Harbor Freight charge controller video, but this is a February 1992 vintage Mexican-made Phillips SL18 plastic one. You can see it's UV faded. When they're new, that's more white, clear in color. This is yellowed from being outside for a couple decades. This is one of the stupid rare pieces. This is a South Korean made feet electric 18-watt compact fluorescent lamp. I know David from AE has one of these that was carries a different branding, and it's blue phosphor. It'd be really cool to get this. This just has your standard cool white halo phosphate. So yes, for those of you involved in that flame war and lighting gallery a few years back, they did make halo phosphate compact fluorescent lamps. This is one of them. And there's the package. It's also even rarer to have the package. This is a late 1960s through I think early 1990s vintage, likely General Electric 1000-watt PS52 envelope. If you can compare it to a this is I think in early 1940s, not 1940s, 1950s, 1960s vintage 40-watt General Electric lamp. You can see the edge there. You can see as a size comparison, kind of hard to see it on the video though because this is clear and hard to show up. And then the one behind it is a late 1920s, early 1930s vintage Champion 1000-watt lamp. So if you have one, if you're one of the very lucky few who have one of those San Francisco Opera House colored lamps, colored 1000-watt lamps they made back in 1932 for the San Francisco Opera House. This is what one of the normal versions of that lamp looked like. You can see the mechanical base and little asbestos pads to cushion the envelope. Because back then basing cement technology hadn't gotten to the case where they were able to have a purely adhesive-based bond the way this lamp uses it. So this is, likely from the 1920s, because the date code is handwritten on there. If you know how to translate it, the top line is 6-1, the bottom line is 1, that may be a slash, that may be part of the 6, a 6, and a D. If you know how to date that, say so in the comments. These are, it is a 250 volt, 50 watt C17 filament rough service lamp. Fairly unusual piece, you don't often see these. And I got that new in the package there. It's, I guess, 1970s, 1980s from the packaging. If you know, say so in the comments. This is a similar lamp, similar packaging, but this is a 277 volt 100 watt lamp. Another unusual thing, seeing an operating potential rating of that, but those are fairly common in, or were fairly common in anything where you got 277 volt 480 volt three phasing needed to run lights off of it. One other interesting thing about these is that depending on your circuit impedance, hang on, mosquito. Depending on your circuit impedance, those may or may not be an explosion risk when they burn out. This is a 1930s, early 1940s General Electric Mazda 25 watt candle lamp. Got a couple of those at a flea market. This is a more recent one. This is either 1997 or 2007. Likely 2007. General Electric Survivor lamp. It's one of their rough service line of rough service vibration service lamps, which they don't make anymore, unfortunately, because that I got on clearance from Granger. This is yet another interesting piece. This is, I think, a May 1933, but it may be May 1943. General Electric 100 watt, 120 volt Mazda. I'm guessing the 1930s because in the 1940s these lamps were commonly made in an A21 envelope instead of the A23 envelope. That's just somewhat older, guessing it's at least a couple decades old, 40 watt P21 envelope colored lamp. These right there, these right here are, this one is the General Electric Mazda, and that one is a Wabash Appliance Company. These are B2 photofluid lamps. I'm guessing early 1940s because they came in because I got them in a World War II vintage photofluid light that some neighbors were getting rid of. Yay, garbage picking. This is 1940s. Chickens are making a lot of noise. This is a 1940s vintage, but it may be late 1930s. 60 watt Mazda daylight lamp. You can see all these are this blue envelope. That is because these use cobalt glass instead of the more common neodymium. So like the those kind of lilac colored lamps, those use neodymium lamps instead of the cobalt. This, that I've already covered. This is a likely 1930s, 1940s, 1950s vintage Sylvania Electric Products 60 watt 120 volt lamp, fairly similar to the other one, except this one is marked Board of Transportation, City of New York. Got that from a neighbor as part of an exchange for some work that I did for him. His father worked for them, so he got a lot of lamps from that. Hence the branding. This is a 1950s vintage weather resistant 500 watt R40 Sylvania Electric Products lamp. See the nice big mogul base on that. Not every day you find one of those. That's Westinghouse 75 watt TB19 envelope. They were marketed as square lamps, but from that they're round, from that they're kind of grafting kind of a cone-ish shape and a sphere, or rounded end onto a cylinder, so they're not really square. This is the 40 watt 1950s lamp I showed earlier. This is a Westinghouse I think it's January 1951, but it may be January 1961. Westinghouse 150 watt, 120 volt, A23 envelope lamp. 25 watt Westinghouse Mazda P19 envelope lamp. This is, I think, either January 1929 or January 1939. So that's one of the older pieces. This is a Westinghouse 25 watt, 120 volt. This is likely 1950s, 1960s, because it has the same style etch as that one. This is a T envelope. This is a T8 40 watt, 120 volt General Electric showcase lamp. Got that at a hardware store that has all kinds of old interesting pieces. Partly because they got the price wrong on it. It was cheap. It was only about $4 and something. Normally they're $10 because I couldn't find a price on it. And this is a 68 watt Technical Consumer Products compact lamp. It's fairly big there, you can see. One of the problems, though, is that this thing is substantially bigger than the 300 watt lamp it's supposed to replace, and it's only really good for replacing a 200 watt lamp, because you can see on the side 4,000, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's 4,200 lumens. Regular 300 watt lamps produce about 2,000 lumens more, and then these are just other things in my rare lamp bin. That's 1950s vintage 25 watt lamp. It's got all that crap on it because it was the lamp in an old oven in an old abandoned trailer I scrapped. That's Westinghouse 100 watt 1970s vintage lamp. Another Westinghouse, that's a 60 watt lamp. And this one, I had to write the markings on it because the original etch had almost rubbed off, but Westinghouse 60 watt 120 volt. So, got a couple thousand lamps more than this, but these are some of the highlights.